You're now tuned in to the Desire to Trade podcast, a show where we bring you the best figures of the trading world and teach you how you can become a successful trader. This is your host, Etienne Crete.
What's up, guys? It's Zaheer here, Forex trader and founder of Desire to Trade. Welcome to episode 88 of the Desire to Trade podcast. To start off the interview this week, I thought I would just give you guys a small recap of what I'm planning in the next couple of weeks. It's been actually pretty funny to be back home and trade a little bit from home, but pretty soon I'm going to leave again for a trip. And I've talked about it before on Facebook and in the Facebook group. I'm going to do a conference at the China Forex Expo. So I'll be talking there at a panel discussion. And I'm really excited about this. It's going to be pretty interesting. If you guys are in the area, let me know. And I'll try to do my best to meet up with you. It is absolutely my pleasure to meet other people whenever I travel. So if you're there, let me know. And we'll do everything we can. Based on this, I do have other travel plans in the coming months. Again, the conference is only 2 days in China. And I might be going to Malaysia and Indonesia after. Those are just plans that I'm saying here, not sure yet, but it's going to be pretty interesting, I feel. Now, to get back to today's podcast, there are times where the market is kind of slow, right? Things don't move. And that's a point at which people wonder what to do, right? Do you want to go on different markets? Do you want to trade more strategies? What the hell do you want to do? And at the same time, there are some traders who try to trade one thing, but they want to be right all the time, which makes it a lot more difficult. And today's guest is of the opinion that traders would be much better off if they were focusing on strategies with high reward instead of only high win rate. Because it's easy to want to win often in trading, but I think, and that's the way I've been transitioning to a little bit over the past few months, that high reward is an easier way to go. It's just more simple, and you can make much more profit. Most of the traders I know, and this is only my experience, but most of the people I know in trading, they all have a way to capitalize when the market can give them more return. And if not, they just stick to their original plan. But you need to have a way to kind of get more profit in the market. And that's exactly what we talk about today in the podcast. And my guest today, Zaheer Anwari from Dynamic Traders, does not only focus on forex trading. He thinks, in fact, that you should go on different markets because the volatility can be different on different markets. And you have to go where the volatility is on the market. It's not just you trade one thing, it's going different things. I'm not exactly open necessarily to this myself, but for some people, it might be a good solution. Help me welcome Zaheer Anwari. Zaheer Anwari, welcome to the Desire to Trade podcast. How's it going today?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for inviting me onto the podcast.
That's my pleasure, of course. And the first question we always ask the guests is, what is one quote that inspires you?
It's a really good question. And I thought about this before coming onto your podcast, and I found it quite difficult to narrow it down to one that I particularly liked. Having said that, the one that really resonates with me the most is, of course, by the great man, Warren Buffett. I know he's an investor, and this is more of a trading podcast, but the quote is, "The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient." I think it's a powerful, powerful quote.
Love it. It's pretty cool. And you see so much that patience is like a big role in trading. So I really love that quote for sure.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's very misunderstood how important patience is.
Yeah, it's a big one. So tell us what's going on these days for you.
Yeah, it's interesting times. I'm a member of the Dynamic Trader community. I've been a member of the Dynamic Trader community since 2007, and I went full-time in 2011. 2012, I started mentoring, training, guest speaking. And I think, in the last year particularly, the reputation of myself as a speaker has already started gaining a bit of momentum. I've been doing a lot of guest speaking, been doing a lot of group training sessions. So as a result of the guest speaking, group training sessions are starting to become more regular feature of my life. Yeah, I'm just in a very good place at the moment.
Nice. And what kind of trading are you doing for people who wonder how you trade?
I'm very much a long-term trend trader. So I look for long-term opportunities in the market. It's For me personally, it's an approach that really resonated with me when I first started trading. So I was in full-time employment. I was making good money. I wanted out of my job. And I needed a style of trading that could be adapted around my lifestyle. And, I started dabbling in day trading and short-term trading. It just didn't make sense to me. It was stressful. It was time-consuming. It was inconsistent. I wasn't particularly good at it. I know there'll be people out there who'll be far better at day trading than I am, but I just wasn't very good at it. And secondly, it just didn't resonate with me. It was an additional stress in an already pretty hectic lifestyle. So I came across my mentors and they taught me how to trend trade, and everything they told me made sense. Weekend preparation takes about an hour. Once you've done that weekend preparation, Monday to Friday takes no more than 10 to 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day. And it's just a far more simpler approach to the market. So yeah, I'm a trend trader. And also, I don't just focus on foreign exchange. This is something that's really important. Foreign exchange, UK stocks, US stocks, and commodities are branch out across the board.
Yeah, that's interesting for sure, because I think some people who trade Forex, they see themselves as like Forex trader. They're not going to do anything else, right? They're going to stick to one thing. And I stick to one thing also, but maybe, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But tell us a little bit how you started to trade, because let's go back in time a little bit.
Yeah. So I started trading in 2007. Before that, I was a software engineer. So I have a degree. I went to university here in London. I graduated in 2002 in software engineering. I worked about a year before I realized that, this is not for me. I think if you end up doing a 9 to 5, I think the most important part of it is you have to actually wake up happy in the morning, ready to go to work. That was definitely missing. So I quit. I became an English teacher. People probably be familiar with the term TEFL, which is teaching English as a foreign language. I then went and lived out in Asia for a couple of years. We had a conversation about China and Taiwan. So I was living out in Taiwan. Great, loved it, met a lot of people, traveling, food, weather, everything that you would want, but there's no money. And the older you get, money obviously becomes important. You want things, the nicer things in life. So came back to London and I became a photographer. Photography, again, great work, had some amazing clients, but the hours were horrendous. So pre-trading, what I realized is that you're always compromising. So in software engineering, I was compromising my passion. Teaching was money. Photography was time. And by nature, I'm quite rebellious. I'm quite curious. I'm always questioning. And, I just thought, why do I have to compromise? And so that's when I started looking into trading. And, that's how trading came about. And it really resonated with me. And what I wanted was empowerment. And that's the other thing with day trading. You can make money, but it's not empowerment. Because if you're focused on the charts all day, you're giving up your time for money, in which case you might as well just have a job. What I wanted was a style of trading that would allow me the money and the time to enjoy the money. And trend trading really, really ticked all the boxes.
That's interesting, because in fact, I got this kind of working call recently. The fact that day trading is like a 9 to 5 job. It's like the same thing, right?
Yeah,
so why would
exactly.
you want to switch 9 to 5 job to day trading? I just don't get it. But yeah.
I mean, I really admire people who do that. I mean, if you're out in a job, okay, you may not enjoy what you're doing, but you're around people, you can make friends, you can have a social environment around you. But if you give that all up to day trade, it's just, I don't particularly understand why people would do it. But, everyone has the right to make the choices that are right for them, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So how was the learning process? Did you succeed at first, or my guess is not, but
yeah, I mean, of course, there's always the learning phase is always the challenging part. But I think where I went correct and what I did very differently to most people is that, I went down the route of mentoring. So before I actually met my mentors, Javed Sheikh and Anne Chapman, who are the founders of the Dynamic Trader, before I met them, I had actually paid £5,000 for another course. And I learned very, very little on that course. In fact, the whole point of that course was to then try and upsell me onto a £25,000 course. I don't know if you have this upselling business model in Canada where you're from.
Do you have? But it's not that high of a price.
Oh, it's unbelievable. We've got courses here that range from 10,000 all the way up to £50,000.
Wow, that's crazy.
And there's people paying for these courses. And, I paid £5,000, and in my heart, I knew that I was going to get stung, but I just really wanted to get started. So I paid the £5,000. And then, of course, we had the upsell, which was, so the £5,000 was a 2-day course and the £25,000 was the upsell. I didn't pay for that. And so then I went away, and just by luck, I found my mentors, Javed and Anne, and had a conversation with them, told me exactly what it took. So for example, software. In the £5,000 course, there was no mention of good software. As private traders, we need proprietary tools. We need good software. One-to-one training is what I was looking for. That wasn't even in the £25,000 course. It was group training. I wanted a real understanding of how not to blow an account, how to always protect the money I was making, because I was making good money. I didn't want to lose it. So the real loss, if you like, that I made was the initial £5,000. But once I became a dynamic trader, the learning process was far easier because I had mentors who were full-time traders. That's what I was looking for, real full-time traders. And they taught me the rules of the markets, the strategies, the risk management side. And, the real challenge in trading is, for me personally, was being consistent with that, following that every day. So doing my weekend analysis, following my trading plan Monday to Friday, incorporating that into my lifestyle. I think that for me was the real challenge. It wasn't so much the blowing of accounts or, figuring out a strategy that worked, because I didn't do any of that. I was given strategies that worked. And so it was a much simpler process without the whole sort of stress of blowing accounts.
Yeah, it definitely helps, of course. I'm happy you mentioned it. Good. I think a good thing with that is that you went straight to the mentorship route. Like, you knew you had to find someone to help you, right? Which is really good.
Yeah, I think, I've always been like that. I mean, if you go back to when I was a teenager and I used to, I tried to learn the guitar and I pressured my mum and dad to, find me a one-to-one teacher. I didn't want to do group classes. And then as I got older, I started doing some, I used to do a bit of break dancing and locking and popping. And I had a one-to-one teacher for that as well. I didn't want to do group classes. So I've always, I'm a little bit selfish like that. I always like that sort of one-to-one interaction. And so it hasn't been any different in anything else. When I was in Taiwan and I was learning Chinese, I had a one-to-one teacher. So it was the same with mentoring. I really wanted a one-to-one tutor. And I found, as they say, when you put your energy in the right places, the universe sometimes tends to unfold in the right ways. So I think that's really what happened.
Yeah, it's interesting. Really interesting for sure. And then how did you move to trading full-time, and how did you realize you were profitable? Did it take a long time, or was it hard?
It takes time. The hard process of trading is certain elements such as dealing with pullbacks in the market. So, when you're in a trade and you're in profit, you're £100, 200, 300, 400 pounds in profit, and you start seeing your trades grow, and then the dreaded pullbacks come in. So you start seeing your profits diminish. So you were, say, £1,000 in profit, then you're 900, you're 800. That's the real challenge. That's what I found when looking at trend trading, because of course the market doesn't move in a straight line. There's a natural ebb and flow to it where you could have a direction, i.e. a bullish trend or a bearish trend, but it goes up, then it comes down. Then you have the next leg where it goes up, then it comes down. So when you see the markets going against you, when you're in trades, that for me was the initial challenging phase. But once you've experienced that, once or twice or 3 times, it then just starts becoming, I guess, a normal part of trading, because this is where the mindset of trading comes in, the skill set of how to be a good trader. So once I'd experienced that, which was in the first year, once I'd gone through a round of trend, a period of consolidation, another round of trend, I started getting it. I started understanding, okay, this is what trading's about. Money is not made like a 9 to 5, like in a job. We don't make money every day, every week, every month. That's how we are programmed to make money. In trading, you make money in periods. So you could make very good profit for 6 months, and then you may not make any money for 2 months or 3 months. So you've got to develop that skill set and that mindset. And that usually takes about a year, but you can still make money. If you have the right guidance, the right software, the right tools, the right training, you can still make very good profit in your first year.
Oh yeah, I guess, but that's the thing. You have to be surrounded with other traders, other full-time traders, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Like having that support network around you it's really crucial. And then, it then took me 4 years to get to a point where I could fund a lifestyle from trading. So what did I do to get to that stage? Well, first and foremost, I worked my socks off, because everyone wants to work smart. We know that, and trading can do that for you. But you have to go through the work hard process first to get to that work smart process. It's a journey.
What's
I think
the
most
more hard process? Is it back testing and make sure
no,
your stuff is right, or?
yeah, it's a good question, but no, it's actually I didn't really do much back testing because I had strategies that worked and I had faith in these strategies based on the one-to-one training that I had and the understanding of market conditions and market environments and how to calculate stop losses, etc. It just all resonated and made sense to me. So I used to look at charts to see where trends appeared and how you could apply this, but I didn't do in-depth back testing. When I say the work hard process, what I mean is working hard to generate money through a job that you can then funnel into your trading account.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it
Yeah.
totally makes sense.
Yeah. So I used to work, sometimes I was working 7 days a week. So I had my 9 to 5, if you like, where I was a photographer, but it wasn't a 9 to 5. I was working 15, 16 hours a day. Saturday, Sunday, I was a tutor, an English tutor. So I used to teach a lot of students. I just wanted to make as much money as possible to be able to put into trading accounts to leverage that through trading. And that whole process took me about 4 years, where I was then able to, start taking money out of my trading account and fund a lifestyle from it.
That's interesting. I think sometimes people wonder, like, what's the number one thing they can do to improve their trading, like be a better trader. And I think having a job is like one of the first things, because otherwise you don't have any trading capital to trade or to fund your lifestyle, as you said. So I'm really happy you mentioned it, for sure.
Yeah, I think also what's really good about having a job is that it gets you into a good routine.
Yeah.
Because if you have a job, I mean, how many people have bosses that will allow them to have a laptop open on their screen looking at charts? Very, very few.
Yeah.
I mean, if any. So what you want is a style of trading that can be adapted around your job. And that then gets you into a good routine of preparation, building watch lists, checking your trades, managing your trades, because you want to be efficient with that. You want to do less for more.
Yeah, and I think also, like, you don't waste time looking at charts, because like you're super limited in your time.
Exactly that. I mean, I think the idea of staring at charts, I could be a little bit incorrect about this, but I feel it's something that's really come about because of the internet and because of the creation of the software, because of brokers really pushing the industry. They're really getting everyone down to lower time frames, really encouraging people to trade on 1 hour time frames, 15-minute time frames. And so, of course, if you're trading on those time frames, you need to be looking every 15 minutes or every hour.
Yeah, I think I agree with that for sure.
Yeah, it's a very difficult approach.
Exactly. Yeah. So I want to dive in a little bit into the how you do stuff. So you've been telling us about your weekly analysis. What does that look like? Like, what do you do in those analysis?
Okay, great question. So the way I would explain this is really to reverse the whole week. So Saturday to Sunday is what I would consider my week. Monday to Friday is what I would consider my weekend. So what I would do is spend some time at the weekend preparing for the week ahead. And I do this alongside my community members. So I'm a member of the Dynamic Trader community. So we do it together as a community, which is great because everyone bounces ideas off each other. And by the end of the weekend, so by Sunday evening, we are all very, very clear on which instruments are making up our currency watch list, our stocks watch list, and our commodity watch list. So for me personally, this process would take about an hour. And the reason for that is because I have very, very good software. I have scanners. I'm lucky to have proprietary software developed by the Dynamic Trader, which also includes scanners, trend filters, customized subchart indicators, just a fantastic array of tools that helps to speed up the analysis process. That takes about an hour at the weekend. I usually do it Sunday evening. Because I've done that, Monday to Friday, I know exactly what instruments I'm looking at, and those are what I focus on during the week.
How do you find those? Like, what are things you look at specifically?
Okay, so I like to trade. So as a trend trader, first of all, I'm looking for trends. So any instruments that are in consolidation, I tend to stand aside. So for me, currently, the foreign exchange market as a whole is very much range bound.
Yeah,
There are not any real clear trends. Yeah, exactly. Euro dollar, it's been in a range for 2 years. The pound dollar hasn't really gone anywhere, or any of the pound currencies, given the situation surrounding Brexit. So foreign exchange in the last 2 years has been very, very difficult. So what I've been focusing quite heavily on, particularly since last year, are UK and US stocks. So trends are pretty much what I look for. When it comes to actually nailing down and applying strategies. There are two main approaches that I look for: breakouts, which are my preferred approach, and pullbacks. Breakouts are just far simpler to recognize and, are far simpler to trade.
Mm-hmm. Because I feel like with pullbacks, you always wonder whether it's like kind of a reversal or just a pullback, right? So that's harder for most people.
Yeah, spot on. Exactly that. I mean, if you go on the internet, new traders are encouraged to trade pullbacks because, ultimately there is, of course, you'll make more money. If you get into a good pullback, you'll make more money. But to trade pullbacks, you have to have a very good understanding of market structure. Because as you've mentioned, how do you know it's not a pullback? How do you know it's not going to lead to a total reversal in trend? Is there a chance you're going to get caught up in consolidation? So whenever you trade a pullback, you really want to make sure that you have the odds in your favor of a reversal back in the direction of the trend. Whereas with a breakout, the breakout confirms the trend.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you. I would say my advice is for new traders or even experienced traders to focus on breakouts because they're far more versatile, but then learn to trade pullbacks when the market offers.
Yeah, interesting. So I guess what you're going to do is you're going to look at your chart, pick a few things that you might want to trade, and then you're going to probably write on the chart or do some annotation to know what you have to do, right?
Yeah, exactly. Spot on. Okay. So, in short terms, the monthly time frame is where I look for support and resistance levels and where I look for trend structure. And, I look at the history of the trend and see if it's trended well. That's where the monthly chart comes in. The weekly and the daily chart is where I look for trend alignment. So the weekly and the daily will tell me whether I'm going to go bullish or bearish. And I do that using moving averages, 250, for example, very good moving averages. I have a trend filter. I have several trend filters that we use as dynamic traders that will help to identify whether, the overall trend is bullish or bearish. So, technically those are what I look for on the different time frames.
And then when it comes in the week, what do? You just wait for your kind of setup to form, or?
Yeah, perfect. So I base my trading decision on end of day prices. I don't get caught up in intraday noise. So I'm always looking for breaks and closes of support and resistance levels, try and avoid fake breakouts. So any of the instruments that made my weekend watch list, I keep an eye out on them to see if they have set up. If they set up, I then look at which strategy that I want to apply. I then apply that strategy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Interesting.
And trades that I'm already in, because I can hold trades for months technically. So foreign exchange, a good trend for me is 8 to 9 months. Stocks, 12, 13, 14 months. So trades that I'm already in, I will then look to manage those based on my trailing stop losses, if I need to compound, etc.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And I know there's a popular belief among the kind of price action trader that you need to have your charts closing at like 5 p.m. Eastern or something like that. Is it something you think is important when you look at your end of day analysis, or no?
For me personally, yes. End of day prices are the primary driver for me to look for positions. I think sometimes you can go down to a lower time frame. There's nothing wrong in that. If you can find a good entry point on a lower time frame, such as a 1 hour time frame, that's fine. But the key is to manage your stop loss on the larger time frames so that you stay in that. If you're in a winning trend and let's say the market gives you 100 pips and you take profit, but then it continues to give 200, 300, 400, 500 pips, why would you want to settle for 100 pips? So, to answer your question, yes, I always look for end of day prices, but on occasions I can deviate from that and go down to a lower time frame if needed.
Mm-hmm. But what is end of day for you? Is it end of day in London, or does it really matter?
Oh yeah, 11. So depending on the time of year, it's either 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. UK time. So
right.
that's
5 p.m. Eastern time. Okay.
Yes. Sorry, I think okay, I get that. Yeah.
Okay, all right, cool. And then what do you do during the day on your so-called weekends from Monday to Friday? Like, do you work on different things, or because of course doing like 10 minutes a day is not, and I do pretty much the same, so it's not time consuming. So what do you focus on during the day?
I think that's what I really enjoy. You mean aside from trading or on trading?
I guess both. Like, there's probably both that you do during the day, right?
Yeah. So when it comes to trading, there is nothing else that I focus on. So once I've done my weekend analysis and once my positions are in play and my stops have been all managed properly, I take a complete step back from the screens from a personal trading perspective. I do have, of course, the community that I'm a part of, that I look after, that I help to look after. So I have a role that I play within the community. So I make sure that all the questions are being answered, which, of course, again, that's not a time-consuming process. These are quick questions to answer. But during the rest of the day, I'm pretty much free to do whatever I choose to do. So, I like to go to the gym. I like to meet up with other community members, other friends. I like to travel. I've really managed to build a lifestyle from trading, which was always my goal.
Yeah, which is interesting. I think it's the best part, right?
Yeah. It's very achievable. This is something that people need to realize. It's extremely achievable. It's not something that is out of reach. If I can do it, and I'm an everyday individual, if I can do it, then everyone can do it. But I think people need to be realistic in the time scale of how quickly that can be achieved.
Yeah. And I think probably the main challenge with yourself trading is that it takes a long time to see a trade unfold. Like, what are they going to be, winner or loser? So people might be patient at some point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, a trend is a function of time. This is something that my mentors first taught me. I remember having a conversation with Anne Chapman, and, she said, look, a trend is a function of time. If you eliminate the time, you eliminate the trend. And of course, if you eliminate the trend, then you're going to eliminate profit. And if you look at all the best traders and investors in the world, going back over decades, they've all been long term. So if you look at people like Jesse Livermore, you look at the Turtle Traders and Richard Dennis and William Eckhart, you look at George Soros, Jim Rogers, Warren Buffett, they hold positions for long periods of time. So, you really do want to sort of emulate your business model or your trading model on these individuals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, you have to know when to exit, but I think the longer you stick to your trade, the longer you stay in, the more chance you have profit, right?
Yeah, and the expression is the trend is your friend until the bend at the end. So, I think that's a challenge that a lot of people find. I think where people go wrong is trying to predict the end of trends when you don't really want to do that. When there's a trend in play, just go with it. And the best way to go with it is by using trailing stop losses, by understanding support and resistance levels, by understanding levels that price would like to move towards. I use round numbers, for example, very good levels that price would move towards. So if you break down the euro dollar, at the moment, it's sort of oscillating around 1.10. It's a round number. If you go back to 2014, when it started weakening, it found resistance at 1.40. This is a round number. So if you break down the chart, regardless of what it is, it could be a stock as well or a commodity, round numbers are significant levels that price likes to move towards. So when you're in a trend, if you can hold your positions towards the next round number, that's how people will then, understand the element of patience and how you can then grow an account through that approach.
Yeah, and I really love round numbers, like totally. And I think it makes sense because like the place where people are going to place orders in like banks or big institutions, it's not going to be like random place, it's going to be a round number. So
yeah,
there's not much risk between two round numbers, basically.
Yeah. And, it is. And I mean, even if you apply that to other aspects of your life. So let's take, for example, if you're jogging, you get to 10 kilometers, you're feeling good. In your head, you think I'm going to try and target 15 kilometers or 20 kilometers. You don't think I'm going to try and target 15.4 kilometers and stop.
No.
You as humans, we operate towards these sort of psychological levels. And if it's human emotion that's moving the market, then there must be, a certain element of round numbers in the market.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really interesting. And then let's talk about trading different markets, because Forex is good and it's the only thing I trade. But how did you decide to do other markets? Was it your mentor who told you this is a good idea, or?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one of the first aspects of trading that I was taught was how to manage a watch list and how to recognize where the money is. Where I feel private traders tend to limit themselves is by having a very small watch list. So often they focus on maybe just the major currencies. And what if the major currencies are in consolidation?
Yeah,
if the major Yes, exactly that. If the major currencies are in consolidation, where is the money? It may not necessarily be on the other crosses, within foreign exchange. It may be in a whole other market altogether. So if you look at foreign exchange, it's been very much range bound in the last year or so. But if you look at NVIDIA, are you familiar with NVIDIA, the graphics card company? They're in the information technology sector of
Yeah, I think so.
US
I've heard
stock.
of them, yes, a little bit.
I mean, pretty much if you open up a PC, the graphics card in there will most likely be from NVIDIA. This was the best performing stock of 2016. I entered it at $40, just above $40 when price broke the all-time high. And it's now trading at over $100. It peaked at 120 and it's now at over 100. And I'm still long on this. So when you're looking at all the markets, you're not limited to you're not limiting yourself to just a group that may, for long periods of time be in consolidation. If you have a macro view across all the markets, you can then really move to where the best trends are.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. But do you apply the same strategies to stocks versus Forex, or are they tweaked a little bit?
Okay, so the way I tell people this is very simple. If I gave you a chart and I hid the name, so you didn't know whether it was a dollar, yen, whether it was Apple, whether it was oil, you could just see the chart with candlesticks. And if I gave you the monthly, the weekly, and the daily time frame with the same indicators that I use across all those markets, you should be able to trade it based on what price is saying, regardless of what market it's from. So I apply the same approach across the board. 95% of my approach is the same across the board. Now, of course, there are features that are unique to each market. So, for example, in stocks, you use volume. Currencies, there isn't volume. In stocks, you have gapping and earnings. It's 9 to 5, whereas, foreign exchange is 24 hours. So there are features that are unique to each market that you need to be aware of. But these are just additional factors. So, for example, when it comes to volume, ideally, I like to see stocks that have volume over 1 million.
Okay.
Stocks that have volume less than 1 million, I tend to not trade unless the trend structure is looking very, very good. So there are certain factors that may be unique to each market, but across the board, the general technical analysis that I do is the same.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So you don't even look at the volume on a breakout, let's say, to confirm the breakout.
On my initial position, I like to see volume increase. So I want increased volume. But on my compound positions, I may not necessarily look at increased volume.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. And I think it makes sense too, because whatever technical analysis you do, it's always going to be the same. It's the same tools pretty much. So that's
correct. Yeah. You often hear people say, oh, I'm scared of stocks. I like foreign exchange. Or the other way around where, foreign exchange is too volatile. I prefer stocks. Yes, I understand why people say that. Foreign exchange is, it tends to move far quicker than stocks. But ultimately, if you can trade one, you should be able to trade the other. Where people may get a little bit put off in stocks is that, there's 5,000 plus stocks. How do you find the good stocks? That's the challenge to stocks. Whereas with currencies, you've only got 50 or 60 currencies that you really want to look at. And then if you narrow that down to just the majors, you've only got, 6-7 currencies worth looking at. So it's that psychological element that people bring to foreign exchange trading, where they think, it's much easier for me to trade foreign exchange because I only need to look at the majors, or I'll only trade euro dollar, or I'll only trade gold. Whereas, that's not the best approach. What you want is to look at all the markets, and then you want good software that can help determine where the money is, that can help narrow down from 5,000 stocks, 10 or 20 stocks that are worth trading.
Mm-hmm.
And, you want to be able to, this is the art and the skill of a good trader. You don't want to be going onto some financial website, a free website, and looking on that website to see what stocks they are talking about and then trade that stock, because you're trading someone else's analysis and opinions. You want the good software and the good tools to be able to find these stocks yourself.
Do you have any recommendation of software people could check out, or anything specific?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I use eSignal. So I know a lot of people use free software or broker software, and, it's a start. If you want to play around with tools, if you want to get familiar with looking at charts, and, maybe you might be using a demo account and, you want to place trades, then I understand the whole free setup that you can get. But the minute you make the conscious decision of saying, right, I want to fund my account with live money, then you want to bring a more business-like approach to trading. So I would tell people to look away from free software and invest in good software. So I use eSignal, but the real strength of eSignal is the high-end proprietary tools that you can develop that work within eSignal. So I don't use the standard eSignal tools. As dynamic traders, we have 300 plus tools that are given to us that work within the eSignal platform. I know you can develop tools in other platforms, but most of those languages are quite old and outdated. Whereas, with eSignal, there aren't many limitations to what can be created based on the software language that is used. So I would definitely recommend people to use eSignal. And the scanner that we use is Metastock, which is our stock scanner where we find stocks like Nvidia, Marriott, Southwest Airlines, Delta Airlines. These are all stocks that we've traded in the past. People have a look at them. You'll see why we traded them.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. The other question I have is how do you deal with all those things in stocks that aren't in Forex? So like things like gaps or like unexpected news. Is it like, can you do something with them, or do you just have to deal with the fact that they're there?
Yeah, I think, look, every market has its challenges. So, with stocks, you have gapping. But gapping is not necessarily a bad thing. This is something that people need to realize. So, if people go back to Nvidia, which I traded on a breakout above $40, if you see that breakout, it was a breakout on a gap, and it was quite a big gap. But what people probably don't realize is that a breakout on a gap is stronger than a normal breakout. So what that can do is then inject a real sense of momentum into the market. And if you look at Nvidia, it went like a rocket. So yes, the market can gap, but you want to look for gaps in the direction of the trend. And sometimes the market fills, the gap fills. So what do? Well, you can cut out because losers are part and parcel of trading. So if price pulls back to fill the gap, get out. Have a risk of 0.5% or 1%, 2%, so your loss is small. Or another way of dealing with it is put your stop loss below the gap, because what can happen is that the gap can act as a level of support in a bull trend or resistance in a bear trend, allow price to fill the gap, and then give it the time to continue in the direction of the trend. So, there's various ways of dealing with gaps. Earnings, very simple. I don't trade stocks. So any stocks that I'm not in, I don't trade them 2 weeks prior to the earnings release.
Okay. Because it's going to react a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And there might be a sell-off, so the market may start pulling back. It may gap open on earnings release. It may gap in your favor. It may gap against you. It's just so many unknowns that there's just no point getting caught up. If I'm already in the stock, then I just leave it. I don't add any positions. I don't compound. I just wait until earnings comes out, and then once earnings has been released, I then manage that stock accordingly.
And what about the gaps that occur against you when you're in a trade? Does that happen a lot, or?
It can happen, but that's where my stop loss comes in. Very rarely would it gap straight through my stop loss. I think these are, first of all, I use wide stop losses. Probably much wider than what most people will ever consider using. And if it gaps against me, it gaps against me. There's nothing I can really do about it. This is where risk management comes in. This is where just accepting that at the time of me taking the trade, it was a good trade, and I can't control the outcome of the trade. And over many trades, many high probability trades, I will return more profit than a loss.
And I think that's the big thing, that getting caught up in the outliers that happen in trading. Because there's always going to be like word trade that you don't know what happened. They were good trade, but like they went in a different manner.
Correct.
You have to not get caught up in those, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, in Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas, the gentleman passed away last year. Was it last year or the year before? I mean, it's
last year.
Yeah, it's a good book. If people haven't read it, I definitely recommend reading it. And he says that what is the definition of a good trade? One where you follow your trading plan regardless of the outcome. So as good traders, understand how to find high probability environments. That's crucial. Have good risk management, have a well-placed stop loss, because this is what you can control. What we can't control is the outcome of the trade. What we're doing whenever we enter a trade is to stack the odds in our favor that the market is going to return a profit. It's probabilities, but there's always a chance that the market will go against us. So this is where risk management comes in. So, we just don't know what the market's going to do next. Play out your edge over many, many trades without blowing an account. Keep your risk small. And over the long term, you will return a profit.
Yeah, that's a very good lesson for sure. Love it.
Mm.
Love it. And what do you think is your strength right now? Your biggest strength as a trader?
I would just say experience. I would say that the whole process has been made far easier for me given the training and the software that I have available to me. I think people really underestimate the importance of good software. So I think, the strength of where I am today comes from the foundation that I gave myself at the very beginning to build my trading career on.
Love it. It's definitely a good answer. Love it. So how can people find you if they want to reach out or connect with you or see what you're doing?
Yeah, sure. I guess the best way, I've got various ways, obviously social media. I'm a big player on social media. I do enjoy it. One of the main places that people can go to is my Medium blog. So I blog a lot on trades that I'm in. So they can go to medium.com/@Zaheer Anwari. People can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So if you search for my name, I've got a new website, which is almost in completion. Really looking forward to that going up. I've spent a fair bit of money on that. So ZaheerAnwari.com. Twitter, again, under my name. So all the usual suspects, I'm there. I am on social media. I'd say the most active would be Medium and LinkedIn. I just feel because that's where I interact with, business-minded individuals. I am on Instagram, but the crowd on Instagram is fairly young. It's a good medium. I've met a lot of interesting people through there, and I've connected with people that have come into the community, some amazing people. I've got quite a few clients in Canada. We've got a few community members in Canada as well. So, social media is great. It really allows us to connect with, interesting people around the globe. So yeah, I'd say that.
And Zaheer, what kind of goal do you have for the future?
What kind of goal? I would really like to connect with more people who want to learn to trend trade. I had an interesting conversation with a gentleman a few days back, and this poor chap has lost around £50,000 in various ways. So through courses that never delivered, trading on his own, money managers, brokers, binaries, he's done the works, and in total, he's lost around £50,000. But what's beautiful about him is that he hasn't given up, and he's joined us here at the Dynamic Trader. And, it will be the last time he ever pays for a course, because here at the Dynamic Trader, we really help people to get the results and the consistency. And not only that, the knowledge and thereafter, they get all of that here at the Dynamic Trader. So, my goal for the future is really to help a lot of people who have been stung before, who are struggling with getting consistency, who maybe are on the verge of giving up. I would say, don't let these marketers who've, probably charged you a lot of money for courses and taken it and not delivered. Don't let them, win. Don't let them make you give up on your goals and your dreams and your aspirations. Like, trading will deliver. You've just got to change your whole approach of how to do this. So my goal for the future really is to help people really achieve success in trading.
Cool. And what's your main motivation to do all this?
Well, first of all, I enjoy it. I think, coming from a teaching background. Secondly, I think, given what trading has done for me, I think there is real pleasure for me in paying that forward and helping others achieve success. So, in the Dynamic Trader community, we've helped a lot of people achieve full-time status. I know you had Miguel a couple of weeks back. Perfect example. Miguel's a full-time trader. He's been in the community 2 years, 3 years. We've got other people, not just here in the UK, but globally, who we've helped achieve that. So, for me personally, that's the real joy of helping people do that.
Yeah, and I think you just feel great when you help people, whether it's in trading or whatever, like any other activity, any other field, for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, believe it or not, it's a lonely world sometimes being a full-time trader, because all your friends are work. Yeah. They don't always have the same mindset as you. You encourage your friends, hey, come on, learn to trade. They're like, no, it's not for me, because they don't understand it. So, by being able to help others, I'm effectively building my own network of friends and family members that I can, enjoy life with. So there's many benefits doing what I do. And I've made some amazing friends through this journey.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Let me ask you this just for curiosity. How many of your friends of before starting to trade have decided to trade?
Good question. I would say I'm probably reaching into double figures now. So friends and family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's taken a bit of time, but slowly but surely. I think, what people need to realize is that through this journey, you shed a lot of friends. So the friends that I had 5 years ago, they aren't around anymore because you move on, you progress, you have different goals and aspirations, and people don't relate to that. And if people can't relate to it, then, you go your own separate ways. And so through that journey, you keep hold of the very few friends that do. They may not necessarily want to trade, but they support you. They love you for who you are. They can see what you're about. And they still know me, Zaheer, from 10 years ago. But they know that Zaheer from 10 years ago has evolved into Zaheer today. But, I'm still Zaheer at the core of who I am. So, I still have a few very good friends from before. But as you progress, it's the friends that you make going forward on this journey that are the friendships that I really enjoy making.
That's really cool. Really good to hear. I was curious about that. And Zaheer, we have a question we ask the guests at the end of every podcast. So if you could give only one piece of advice for traders in one sentence, what would that one sentence of advice be?
I would say seek knowledge over marketing. Seek knowledge over marketing. So look for the value in what you're being sold and not the cost.
That is pretty cool. I love it. Zaheer Anwari, thanks so much for being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure to be here.
And, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
All right, guys, that was it for the interview with Zaheer Anwari. I'm really happy to have you guys tuned in today. If you want to see all the things mentioned in this interview, make sure you check out the show note over at desiretotrade.com/Zaheer Anwari. You'll find the links also in the post here on your podcast platform, wherever you're listening this on, to go in the show note. And if you guys want to try out what Zaheer talked about, he has a cool introductory course to Forex trading that I've been through myself. The link is going to be right in the show note for this episode. And I've been asked a few times, why do I promote other people's course when I do have the academy and things that I run myself? And to me, it's pretty simple. I want you guys to succeed, and I want you guys to learn from whoever you want to learn from. So if you think you're going to be better off with someone else's course, totally fine, and you should get it. I'm not here to sell anything. I just want to help you guys get results in trading, whatever that's going to take. And I'm here to help. So if you want to connect with me after the show, check out the Facebook group over at desiretotrade.com/group. You can see me on YouTube as well, and pretty much everywhere by Googling my name or the podcast name. And on that note, thanks for joining me today, guys. I really appreciate it. And thank you for the positive reviews. I'll see you guys next week for the next episode of the Desire to Trade podcast. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to the Desire to Trade podcast. To get all the information on this show, free articles, and unique resources, make sure to check out www.desiretotrade.com and subscribe. Please leave us a review and let us know what you thought about the show. It's time to become the best trader you can be. See you next time.